Okay, good evening. We're going to do some of the technical stuff, which is pretty important. Most people don't learn the Megillah, so they don't know much about learning the Megillah. But believe it or not, you have to know something. If not, you're not Yaitza if you know nothing, so to speak. So I'm going to speak about the daydreamers. Is a daydreamer Yaitza or not Yaitza? Boy, you're a good guy. If you had to pick one, I'd pick that one too. That's a much better choice. Could you explain that though? You know, on Purim we're like nice to people, so what? No reason. What's called hearing?
What's called listening and hearing.
How do we define daydreamer? How do I define a daydreamer? A daydreamer is B'tiv yichamduni b'liba rochok dimeni. Right? That's that's like the people who say that for every chakras, you have to say Tzilas Adar to start off in this country, and no, in another country. Right? That's called daydreaming. Right? So there's a joke which I've said over, but I'll say it again. There's this guy who came holding his tefillin shel rosh in his hand. He comes to the Rav, and he says, "I have a shaila." So the Rav says, "What's your shaila?" He says, "I'm holding my tefillin shel rosh. I can't remember if I'm putting it on or I'm taking it off. I have no idea if I davened or didn't daven." So that's a person has to have in mind to be Yitzhak. You have to have kavanah to be Yitzhak. What? Okay. Now, what's called hearing? If I was a marriage counselor, so the one of the spouses this is not a men or women. This happens both ways equally. Says I speak to my spouse and he never hears what I say. So I always hear what you say. Right? This is like standard practice, right? So let's go into halachas and we'll see if we'll get an answer to this question. First, we're in Tafresh Tzadik Sifyu Dalit. And then we're going to do afterwards, I'm going to get out of order. Where's that halacha? Beforehand. Let's your first one. He has to have a mind to be mitzvah the Shomea. V'tzach HaShomea lotzes. V'im kara shat stama, and if the shtech tzibor is the one who's learning stama, daita akol HaShomea achorei beis hakneses. Even the people who are outside, are included because he's doing it for the tzibor at large. So all people are included. Okay, let's stop over there. This year, I had a shaila when I was learning this halacha that I don't really have an answer to, and I'm sure that everybody has an opinion on this, and I accept all opinions, but I need a raya. It's an opinion is wonderful. I need a raya. This is called a shul. This is a place of communal function. The shliach tzibur, the shul, his job is to be mitzvah the tzibur. What about a corona minyan? In the chatzer, is that a communal thing or not? Now, let me just ask you a question. You live in Beitar, I'm not talking to you. Can you come without an invitation to a corona minyan? Yeah, you think so? The people, it's not so. You understand what I'm saying? No, it's Klal Yisrael, Rachmanim, Uvnei Rachmanim, and we let people in. And if I needed a meal and I came to your house, you probably let me in too, right? That's but Be'etzem, the Corona Minyanim are prearranged. It's not a open thing. No, yes, we I don't know the word is tolerate that we will accept guests too. But be'etzem, it's not a communal minyan. It's a private minyan. So I'm not really sure about what the halacha is if a lady decides to listen from her window to a Corona minyan and the guy who's waiting didn't have her in mind. What? So this is exactly what we said. If it's a shul, so he has in mind the community. Is there a community in a Corona minyan? No. Here, no. The chazan in shul doesn't have him in mind. It's his position that has it in mind. In other words, you are a communal service, so maybe anybody can add on to it. It's not that we say that the chazan has everybody in mind. It's the fact that you're chazan in a shul that broadens your what? So, but it's a pride. Right. No. So the guy had no. The chazan had no das. What a chazan. Right? He didn't have anything special in mind. So do we say that included or not? I'm not exactly sure. I don't know the answer to the halacha. I don't know what the getter is, and I'm sharing it with you because it's the getter. It's not just like a cutesy question, because this will happen by a Corona minyan that there'll be people hanging out in the mepes and want to listen. So I don't know. So if you know of such a minyan that I think it's worthwhile that you tell the chazan to have everybody in mind. No, it's no big deal if you do it. I will just say that there's a mokum iyun on this halacha unto itself. Here it says clearly, and the Mishnah Berurah accentuates it, that you have to have das shomeo mashmiya. And if he doesn't have a mind to be moitzi, you're not yotze.
With midnight time, very late, where 10 people somewhere that drive by and see people getting. Do you have to say that there's
no? So that the answer to that first, there's a few things that note that the question is a very good question, but there's a few different parts to that question. Shliach tzibur is yotze the tzibur. Somebody who didn't. I'm right now taking on the brisker approach to Chazar Sashatz. The briskers hold, and we're doing in the Rambam like this, that you need to have 10 shoymim from the people of the tzibur. It's not like a Davar Kedusha. This is a repetition of Shemona Esrei, of those who daven in that Shemona Esrei. It's not that you need a quorum of 10 people. And it's only those people are Yotze Chazar Sashatz, because only they are having Chazar Sashatz. The other people could be Yotze Davar Kedusha aspect of it, but they can't have Chazar Sashatz. In other words, it's according to the briskers, your question is such a good question that it's actually an answer. Okay? And according to the non-briskers, who says there's anything to be Yotze?
Why do we need a Chazar Sashatz according to the briskers?
Was a minhag because of the Amaratzim of yesteryear. What? Yeah, no, I understand. But the minhag is that the tefillah that was just said is reiterated barabim. And not only that, I'll just point out the Igros Moshe holds that that's tefillah b'tzibur. You're not yotze tefillah b'tzibur by having 10 individuals in a room saying Shemona Esrei together. Anyways, so the Bir Halacha and Hilchos Kiddush, he says on the Durabonon, even if there's no das mashmiya, you can be yotze. Only, and this is the right, so we pass it to Shvichas Kavona, you need das shomea mashmiya. But possibly in a Drabanan, you don't need that Shomea Mashmiya. Where's the Nafkamina? according to that Bir Halacha, there's a difference between Mikra Megillah by night and Mikra Megillah by day. Because Mikra Megillah by night is a Rabbanon, and Mikra Megillah by day is B'divrei Kabbalah. It's a higher level. Now, that's a shayla whether B'divrei Kabbalah is in with the rice or not. That's the machlokes rishonim. Now, just as a pointing out something to you, which is amazing, I'm going to share with you a Vilna Gaon in Shulchan Aruch on a question which is fascinating. We make a shechianu when we lay in the Megillah on Purim night, and we make a shechianu again when we lay in the Megillah on Purim day. Does anybody know anybody who does otherwise? You're a bunch of racists. 50% of Klal Yisrael only does at night, and they don't make a bracha in the day. You all guys look like you're spaced out. Why is that? Because we already did it last night. So why is it that we do it again? You know, they're saying so good, so why we? Oh, exactly what the Vilna Gaon says. So it's not just repetition. We never had Mikra Megillah of the day and night. That's like beforehand we had a D'Rabbanan, now we have a D'Oraisa. It's not the same thing. So your Shechianu doesn't cover it. That's one nafkamina. There's another nafkamina, according to some poskim, a lady's mechuyev the Mikra Megillah. If she has a suffix, if she was Yaitza, this could be true by a man also. So it depends. If it's at night, could be you could say suffix D'Rabbanan L'Kula. And if it's in the day, could be you have to be machmer. Now, according to some, even if it's at night, you have to be machmer because she has a cheskas, not a cheskas mekayim. You're not starting off even. So there are enough geminas actually to this question. Anyways, the Mishabura says that you need it instantly. Kuvav afilo b'diavad. V'zeh hukayim shehischol likroy yechaven al kol akriya zeh lotzes v'zeh lahoitzi. In the beginning, you have in mind to be moitzi and to be yaitza. The su ain't tzach lechaven b'chol akriya. Like Gil said, you had in mind in the beginning, and you don't need it the rest of the time. I will just tell you, when I was a bacher, I asked my Shiva a question, and nowadays, probably a bacher would fall apart if he got like a response like I got. I just got this dirty look, and my Shiva just carried on and ignored me. The question I asked him was that we hold that in order to kai mitzvah yeshiva sukkah, you need to have kavanah. And we also hold that you have to sleep in the sukkah. Did you ever sleep with kavanah? What? You could go to sleep with kavanah. You could maybe say that when you're doing a different act, a different kiyum. It's just a hamshech. So when you could say, this is a fascinating idea, when you can say that it's ki'ilu, you're doing it the whole time, that's simple. But when you're in a situation now where you can't do it, so who says it carries over? What was my raya to this question? There's a Gemara in Gittin about a person who's mitzvah to write his wife a get, and then he becomes crazy. So Shaita is not bar mishaleach. He's not a bar gittin anymore. So can the shliach give a get now that the guy's out to lunch? We don't say that the minu shlicha started off when the guy was okay. And it's got into a whole discussion. But the bottom line, the Mishnah Berurah says like you, and they had in mind in the beginning, that's good enough. But the listener has to have oznei hamon. He has to be paying attention. Kol teva v'akore v'chiser hakore afilu teva achas v'chein hashomea v'chiser teva achas l'shmoya lo yotza. If you didn't hear one word, you're not Yaitza. What about daydreamers? Okay, now let's see, and we'll see that that's sort of true. Now let's go back. Yud Beis. Kaire u'misnamnim. These are those guys who fall asleep at the wheel. Have you ever heard of those guys? Kaire u'misnamnim. The person is lighting the Megillah and he dozes off. Hoyo v'lo nirdam b'sheina. Anyone want to translate? Must be in English. What? So what does misnamne mean? What is dozing off? Okay, I'm not so smart. What is dozing off and what is sleeping?
If you tap him on the, if you touch him, he'll wake up.
So we have right? So what does it mean? That he calls it Ben Hashmoshes, right? What? Okay, Ben Hashmoshes, right? Okay. So now, since he didn't fall asleep, Yotza. Ava im Shama Misnamnem, but if you heard Misnamnem, same word. It has the same gematria, right? So if you're Kaira while you're asleep, you're Yotza. If you're Shemeh while you're asleep, you're not Yotza. Then it's got to fly out. Well, why is that?
Well, there's a big difference. The Balkaire, he dozes when he wakes up, he continues. He doesn't miss anything.
So one second. So the reason why it's not yet, according to you, the Shemesh, because he didn't hear every word. But that's not what it says. If I was trying to say that, it would have said that. You know, it's halacha yud beis, the second halacha yud beis, a repeat of halacha yud daled. That's probably wrong to say. Yud beis can't be a repeat of yud daled, but whatever. What? Yeah. Let's see the Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Niki kon de korle voni le'yodel adurei swochi mitche mitchalei b'tzach loymar shemikol mokom yochol lechaven lotzes. It has to be speaking about this guy is an amazing sleeper, right? He's what? Yeah, I mean, there's some guys I know that can't do all that when they're awake, right? Right? But anyways, the mitzvah is kavanah. We're not mevater on anything before. Now, I have a problem with this Mishnah Berurah. Why? Because I asked my Rosh Hashiva, how could the guy fall asleep? And Gil answers, Al Dasri Shaina. What's the Mishnah Berurah's problem? What's the Mishnah Berurah's problem? When he started off laning, he was paying attention. So he gets a check for the whole time. Rabaya. You hear the question? Ari, you with us? Beforehand, the Mishnah Berurah said in the bottom of the page, he says, "V'zeh hichrin hu koidem shamatzcha likroi yechavin al kol hakriya." He starts off and he has in mind on the whole kriya. Then it's yatsa v'gamaru ein tzach lechavin kol hakriya. And now we say the guy who dozes off has to have in mind, and if not, he's not yetzer. Hello, the Mishnah Berurah just said the opposite. What did you think, that we're going to be nimble or table or chair, not know what's going on? Anybody want to help?
I have an issue because the shofar is lishmoa.
No.
Okay, so the mitzvah is and the key has to come by a human, but I'm not so careful how it's done. Okay, here it doesn't say the lishmoa megillah. Okay.
Well, but
okay. So
well, first of all,
that's why the first one with the Baal Korah,
okay,
story than the Shomea.
the women, what bracha did they make? Shmo. 50%. We're back to 50% of Klal Yisrael, right? At least it's not really, because that's the Ramon's sheet and the women. But yeah, no. But the answer is that there's no mitzvah to hear the Megillah. There's a mitzvah to be Korea, and we're yet to Shemei Ko'ina. It's like we said it. There, the mitzvah is not to blow; it's to hear. In other words, the Baal Koira, the Baal Tekeya, is not yet with his blowing. He's yet with his hearing. The Baal Koira is yet with his kriya. Right? The mitzvah is the nature of the mitzvah is different. All right, I don't know if I should leave this at all for an answer to the question, but let's continue. Maybe we'll get have an answer to this question. But I think this question for many different versions of answers to this question. Yatsa hu adin hashomea mimenu gam ken yatsa imrak nishmoim hadvorim heitev. He has to be hearing the words well. I don't know. All of a sudden, we have to be hearing well. We just said before hearing, we always have to turn up the hearing aid. What's going on over here? Don't know. Mishabura is in desperate straits over here. The Marish Betchilas Akriya Kodem Shemisnamnem Lahaitzi Hashoim. What's our subject? I don't mind. Just like fill me in. What's going? So that's right? Do you have to have a special kavanah to do that? I want to ask you a question. Any of you guys will go. We have it by matzah baking. So there's a guy who says in the beginning, everybody say, "Come on, mitzvah." And 2 minutes later, the guy's back. We've been there, done that. Is there an advantage to doing it again? Does it matter if we forget? Does it matter? We're there in the bakery.
It's probably not going to have come the second time either.
I didn't hear. What did you say?
Most probably the second time he's not going to have kavanah either.
What an optimist. So this is a question. Gil said something which I heard share for Moshe Shmuel Shapir about this once. Whether it helps in the beginning for the those that aren't mixed out depends if a shema is a kavana or it's a machshava of the shema. Depends exactly what it is. You have to see Rabbi Beresim and you'll be getting to know exactly what it is, or then you'll find out you don't know what it is with either of the two. That would make a difference, according to Moshe Shmuel Shapiro. But there's such an idea of Das Rishayno also that things are moving along as they started. I would just like to offer that when you change modes, so then could be you need a different kavanah. In other words, when I start off lady, and I say I have in mind, so that kavanah goes the whole way through. When I change my mode, so that it doesn't necessarily carry through. In other words, we understand by the nature of halacha, a misnamem is not a regular guy. He's in a different mode. Who says that the kavanah from mode A carries over to mode B? You understand what I'm saying? So even though it works, and I just make it clear this idea that Shagisari says that a person with tefillin, you're not allowed to be Masiach Das with tefillin the whole time. It's not my question. Wow, what are you, the Rogachover? And the power of women, no, I didn't see them wearing tefillin recently. Okay,
We can love Hashem and fear Hashem at the same time, right? That's fear. You love him, you fear him.
I want to tell you something. A person can love Hashem and fear Him at the same time, but I know if a person can focus on doing both of them at the same time.
The holy sources you're supposed to always do both.
That could be. And that means, but that is one of them is in a certain terms on sleep mode, or are they both active? Not everybody can. If you take a vote right here, people will be embarrassed to say, but it's hard for them to have two different kavanas at once. Yeah, well, I don't know if they're opposite or not. That's another issue. All right. Anyways, that's on this. Offer that as an explanation over here. Bottom line, don't doze off. Okay, this is it's not so simple. I'll just read Mishnah Berurah Mam Aleph, and they'll just totally confuse us. Ava im Shemeya. So why I want to know why is it different? Why is it that we're more machmer on the Shemeya than on the Makre? So he says the Bekriya Kivan Shekar Karoi, since he's doing it properly. It has to be that he's paying attention enough to know that he's saying it right. That's a subjective statement. It's not an objective statement. The safer. All right. Maybe yes, maybe no. So that you just say that you have a stam in the because you didn't hear everything. Now, Mr. Gross is going to say, "Well, you didn't hear anything." I was before Gemara that said he heard everything. The Gemara says you ask him a question, and he'll be able to answer. That means that he heard. How do you answer? Oh, you're like those people that you answer without hearing. What?
Right. You didn't fall asleep. It doesn't mean he's here.
What it means, excuse me, all of us have been in a classroom and we're like, we think we're following along, and then the teacher asks a question, and then you like have to all of a sudden put the pieces together, right? We're familiar with that. That's what it means, right? So he heard. You know, it just the word I became through Corona. I became a much more modern person. He's streaming. Okay, that means that everything is there, but that's why you have two ears. It goes in one side and out the other, right? That's basically, so while it was going through his brain, it was there, but it was never processed, but he heard it all. I think that's the statement, basically, yeah.
No, yeah, he's not right. His brain is, for all intents and purposes, off. But
it's not. If you ask him, he'll answer. Not only that, when you know the person who's misnam them, when you stop, he wakes up. Why? What? So that means that he was hearing. It's not that he wasn't hearing. This is very hearing superficially, and it wasn't ingrained. It's a different level of listening. Okay, let's just go right there. Minus, everybody could stay awake would be much better. Okay. There's a whole bunch of interesting bialachas over here. I'm not going to get involved. I think we for this thing. Okay. Tezvov. The Tzach says Haman Akob Neshima Achas Loidia Ulam Nergo Benisuk Achas. So want to tell me? Who cares? It's like a nifty trick. Like, what do I care how they go? Huh? It's Machadeh the Nes. All right. Is there any importance to this. It's like, if I were to say, okay, let's kill them all, so let's really make it an off-take. They say, you know what? We'll do them all at the same time. I don't think that it would have gotten anybody all riled up about that. Dr. Cohen, what do you say? Is that like the thing that would make it like really a fantastic night that they all at the same time? Huh? And what about you had them all wear, pink pants and orange shirt? You know what I mean? With this, what? I know. It's what's the point? What? I don't know. There's sometimes, after the fact, you say that that's what they did. So you say, okay, I could understand that. Is this what you would have? This is the way to bring the nice out. Now, why is it so important? What? Who cares? Who cares? Why is that important? That's true. But what is the point? The point is that it's all the same thing. When you do it at one time, it makes it even. The 10 sons are different aspects of Haman. It didn't go little by little. It went all at once. Went all at once means to say that they were all equally bad and destroyed at the same time. It's an explanation of what happened. It's expressing something. Now, how it's my right to that? Somewhere it says the reason why is because that's the Ikar Hanes. Where does it say that? So it's in the Rishonim, it says that that's like the Ikar Hanes that they were killed. No, it's as far as I'm concerned, the whole Aseret B'nai Haman is like a sideshow. If you would ask me, what is the climax of the Megillah? I know what I would say. When Esther said, Nia ish harazeh, and he's still alive, Haman, it's all over. From the rest of there, I would call it an epilogue. Right? That's what it would say. If you want, this killing Haman is almost as interesting as Shushan Purim. You know what I mean? It's like this is the cleanup job after. And no, this is like this is the main deal. It's a fascinating thing. All right. Anyways, so we do a bit of Shema Achas. Why? Because we want to make sure everybody knows that they were all killed at one time. Okay. So the Kathil Norma Lema B'Nishim Achas Netilos Chamesh Miyois Ish Ves Bashan Dosa Ad Aseres. Okay. Now, there are those who lay. It's important to say the S's inside. No, it's those people who are not landing. It's raising a big deal because you don't have. But the guy who has to land, then he has to have his eyes run across. Not so simple. So anybody who's going to land should be aware that it's not such a simple thing. Okay. But what was that? What is this halacha? This is Hilchos Mikra Megillah. If I'm not mistaken, Shoshanas Yaakov is not part of Mikra Megillah, is it?
Can I just go back to the B'nai Haman for just one moment?
Boo!
Ooh. Guys listening have, and he knows he can't pronounce them fast in one breath. If he doesn't do it, he's not Yotzi or he's Yotzi? It's Lachatchila.
You asked $1 million question. It's not so funny. It's a very good question. The question is as follows: why is it that it has to be done b'neshim achas? Very nice. So why can't I? What's this business that I stop and I say it myself? Why can't the Baal Koreh do it for me? What? Can't hear you. Yeah, that you agree with the question. Wake up. We did that already. We're going to learn about that in a minute. Because those are okay, that's not what it says. That's not what it says. According to some, that's what it says. The others will say there's a fascinating machlokes, the Beis Halevi and the Chazon Ish. There's a question, the Kohanim have to duchen. Could they be Yetzu Shemei Kohen? This Kohen, he doesn't have koyach today to go up to the duchen. So he says, this is the other Kohen, you go up and be Moitzim Shemei Kohen. And he sits back in his seat. Can he be Yetzu like that? Why not? So the Beis Halevi says it's halacha that Birchas Kohanim has to be b'koram. Shemei Kohen can't make it into kol ram. Kol ram is an extra
Requirement.
What?
Requirement.
Yeah, that's a good word. It's an extra requirement, and Shemei Kohen can't fulfill that according to the Beis Halevi, and therefore you can't be made to somebody else. Can you be Yaitze Neshima Achas with Shemei Kohen? Why do you say sure? No, what Shemei Kohen isn't. What's that say? Shemei Kohen does not mean that you heard the person say it. Shemei Kohen means by hearing what he said, it's like you said it. Possibly, correct. And correct. So that's why, according to many poskim, the reason behind this halacha is because you can't be yaitza. Okay. Now, I didn't forget about you, Lev. The Ramah says that bin yeved yaitza b'shtei neshimas. If the reason is because you want to be yaitza, you can't do neshima achas, so don't do neshima achas. But if you're going to do it and mess up, and because of that you're not going to hear the Baal Koreh, about it better hear it for the Baal Koreh, just be quiet and listen. And not only that, there's a fascinating question which we spoke about this a little bit last week, or just mention it. It's not so clear all the psukim which you say, which we'll see in a minute. Who are you supposed to be yaitza with? What you say, or by who do I serve with simcha? You yaitza with your who do I serve with simcha? You yaitza with the chassan by who do I serve with simcha? Let's see. Okay. Amine kol yisrael k'shekayra kares kigeres lahares hanes uk'sheyigmor chayzer kachu kuloi mavarich. You roll it up before you make the bracha. V'yesha koska shenaglim and dalip psukim shel geula. We call Ram. V'hainu ish Yehudi Mordechai Yotzel and who was our simcha. Mordechai Yehudi. V'chein nagim medinas elu. V'chazen chayzer v'koyra oisan. Why? Because you want to be yaitz with the chazen. Yeah, but Balpei yaitz also. It's not so important. The question we go. It's not likula. V'y kasu shenagim. This is a fantastic line. It's a shame that we're not able to really learn it. V'nagin shatinoikas lotzor tzuras hamim al eitzim v'avonim or lichtav shem Haman aleim, v'la'koisem zel zeh. They make pictures of Haman and then they deface them, no pun intended. Shvinicha shmoy aderech u'mocha ezecha amor v'shem shom yirka. Instead ishtar ha'mini, okay, shemakin Haman kishikorin hamagil. I don't know if anybody ever heard of that mini, that there are those who bang by Haman. Ve'ein levatel shum minik, or lelagle galov. One should not be mevatel any minik or make fun of any minik. Kiloi lechinam hukvo. Any minik which exists is kodesh, if you want to call it like that, and should not be made fun of at all.